if you are a spiritual, heart-centered business owner, here's a really big caution. We need to stop privileging the inner over the outer. This is Mark Silver from Heart of Business, and this is actually a really fundamental spiritual principle that is going to help your business and help our relationship to the world. So, one of the ways that we got into this mess in this culture that we're in is when Western culture stopped treating the world as sacred. We stopped seeing the sacred and the beautiful in the world around us and started dominating it. It sucks. It's terrible. And that's where capitalism and white supremacy and colonialism, where all of these things that have done so much harm have arisen from, out of this disconnect between the inner and the outer. Now, the world that's been created is painful. It's unjust. It's got a lot of horrifying things in it. And there's a tendency, those of us who are, I would say most of humanity, are really tender. We're tender. We're tender. We're sensitive. We care. You know, when something hard happens, it affects us, as it should. Then there's this tendency to believe what we've been given, which is to turn towards the inner and the heart, which is beautiful, which is an important, beautiful practice, but turn away from the outer, which is not. That's what's being reinforced through this false belief system. How this manifests in small business in particular is that people will then focus very much on mindset, on belief, on spiritual alignment, all of which are really important. They're all important, but they're not more important than the outer structures. They're not more important than the outer structures. I take my cue from the natural world. If I look at a tree has the bark, it has the outer wood, and then it has the heart, the sapwood. So what happens with the tree is that it will take things up from the roots, from the out, and then send it back down through the center. And then there's this circulation that happens in this way. If you destroy the bark, the outer, the tree dies. If you girdle it. If you have a business and you are doing all the work to align in your heart and to pray or meditate or clear mindsets and do all these things, but you're not embracing the sacredness in copywriting, in marketing, in building relationships, in the structures and the systems of the business, if you're not treating that as sacred, then one of two things can happen. Actually, many things can happen, but one of two things I'm thinking of now. One is that they get ignored. They don't get handled, or they get handled very badly. And the business doesn't work. Or the other thing that happens is that because it's not being paid attention to with the same level of love and tending that it deserves, people end up picking up practices that seem to work from unethical places. They pick up sales techniques that are manipulative. They pick up systems that do violence to your own heart and who you are, because the business then starts expressing itself very differently from who you actually are, and there's a real disconnect. All of these things start to crumble. And so what I want to invite you to do is to notice when you're privileging the inner over the outer, and continue to cherish your inner connections. But start to see the divine in everything. That's what my sheikh, my Sufi sheikh, charged his students with. That we were asked to witness the divine, to attempt to ask to see the divine in everything. And not just in the beautiful things, but in everything, in copywriting, in business. Every act of business can be an act of love. And this can be really hard some days. And it takes a lot of work. But that's how you build a thriving business. By paying attention to the outer with the same level of sacred intent and joy that you bring to your own heart. I hope this is helpful. Be so curious to hear from you how this lands. I send blessings to you and your business.